Howdy, folks. Greyhawk 4x4 coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer. Today we're going to do our campaign update, which is taking place in the game world of the Dolmenwood, using the Old School Essentials rule set. I got this a couple days ago. This is my Advanced Fantasy Player's Tome. I already had the Classic Fantasy one here, so that's about, as a player, that's about all I need, I think. So Jonathan is DMing this go round. We're doing it all through Roll20. And where we left off last time was we had ventured into a tomb, dungeon, whatever you want to call it, and we were trying to find some weapon to fight the, quote, dragon creature, and which we think is just a gigantic lizard of some sort, but it's being described as a dragon. And we have seen it briefly, and it terrified the shit out of us. We went into the tomb. We definitely are going to need some help in the means of some type of weapon, some type of talisman, or whatever. We have a rope that was given to us by Hogboon. Hogboon is the leader of the local goblin tribe, and he gave us a rope that supposedly is very strong, magical, or whatever, that if we are able to subdue the dragon, we can tie it up with that to bring it back. And so the goblins are, quote, helping us by giving us this item. Now we're looking for this, we were looking for this weapon inside the tomb. We were somewhat successful. We defeated several enemies. However, several of us were damaged pretty badly, were hurt pretty badly. We had to leave to try and go back and recuperate. We were attacked by some flies, some giant flies. When I say flies, I don't mean little ones. Giant flies, which damaged us even more. We made it back to town and to start to recuperate. And we actually met an alchemist in town that helped with some tea, some things like that. You'll have to excuse me while I turn this off. And so that's where we left off. So starting up with this new session last Friday, we have awoken after that first evening of recuperation, and we've gained a little bit of health, and it turns out that in town there is a couple of things going on that we need to investigate. The way we find out the first one is our party, at the particular inn that we're in, that we're staying at, the innkeeper there basically gets us all together and accuses us of being thieves. Perplexed, we all say, thieves of what? What are you talking about? And he says, oh, don't play stupid with me. You know you stole the ale from the basement. And so we're all looking confused and everything else. And we say, well, no, we have no need to steal your ale. And he's not believing us. So he takes us down. He shows us that someone's been busting into his kegs. Not just like draining them, but like busting into them and draining out everything. So damaging the keg as well, And so there's some on the floor. And so he's accusing us. We decide my character, Eintz, says, well, I'm going to vow to get to the bottom of this for you, because I want to clear our name, and also, as a sign of good faith, show you that, we're here to help you or whatever. So Eintz decides he's going to start an investigation. Everybody else is assisting. And at one point, the rest of the group goes off into the forest, and they are looking for mushrooms. They're harvesting mushrooms, which have healing properties and that type of thing. While they're doing that, I go to see the hunter, the one that was damaged, that was had lost a limb to the, quote, dragon, and whom I have in the past. I got him a replacement hound because either one or both of his dogs were killed by this big lizard thing. And of course, he was ecstatic when I gave him the hound. And it bought me a little bit of favor in the meaning that I get like +2 charisma on my charisma checks in town. So I knew that he and I were on good terms that way. So I thought, well, maybe if he knows the town pretty well, maybe he can give me a lead on who he might suspect was stealing ale. And he says, and he used a term that I did not write down. I don't remember what term he used, but the definition was in local terms was it meant any new people to the town, like outsiders that came in, which we are part of. Our party is also outsiders, so we would fit into this description. But there's also another group that Lady Hilda, who helped us last time in our last episode, she's part of that group. And we also knew that she was kind of on the outs with her group when she joined up with us temporarily. And so the hunter says, well, that's who I would suspect, is anybody outside the town, whatever. And so I'm thinking, well, I know we didn't do it, so that leaves them and so forth. So I leave him and I decide, well, I remember that when the blacksmith helped me, he helped me with something. I can't remember what it was. But when I was there, he told me that he was being haunted. And so I go back to him and I thought, well, maybe let's find out what's happening to him, because perhaps whatever's stealing the beer, the ale, maybe that's the same thing haunting him. So I go back and I question him, and he says, well, no, all that's really happening with me is they keep on, skulking about, and then they leave these symbols, these tokens behind, or whatever. And I look at, now my character's illiterate. My character can't read. And so I knew that one of our party members could read. So I said, well, can I borrow this? And so I go back to the tavern, and everybody else is back there. And I asked our magic user, Braun, I said, hey, Braun, I was pretty sure he could read because he's a magic user. I was like, can you read this for me? And it turned out that it was basically a love note that was being left for the blacksmith by the alchemist in town. Ingrid is her name. Now, he must be illiterate as well, the blacksmith. So he couldn't read it either. So he assumed it was some kind of like curse thing or whatever that somebody was leaving behind or whatever. So I go back and I say, hey, here's what this says, dude. I go, you probably might want to talk to Ingrid about this, because it sounds like she fancies you quite a bit. And he's all flustered and taken aback, and he doesn't know what to do. And I say, well, look, can you cook? And he says, well, yeah, and I said, well, because it's already been determined. It's like January time in the game world, so it's bitterly cold at night, around 0 or whatever, and below freezing and all that. And I said, can you make some stew or some soup or something like that? And maybe you could take that over to her this evening and just pick some flowers and stuff, dude, along the way, and take that to her kind of as an icebreaker and see where it goes, So, and what I'm trying to do here is I've already helped the hunter. Now I'm helping this guy. Well, we as a party, because the magic users had to decipher the note and everything. We as a party, we're helping this guy out. So it's bolstering our reputation in the town, for one thing. But I'm also trying to solve these mysteries, right? So off he goes to do his thing. So I go back and I'm like, well, I don't think that was our culprit. It turns out that it was Ingrid, blah, blah, blah. And so we come up with a plan that our feline humanoid player character, played by Stesha, Petunia is that character's name. Petunia, I say, Petunia, can you, do you have the ability to hide, like when you're in cat form and so forth? Maybe you could hide down there in the basement and see if tonight it happens again. And so she agrees to do that. And while she's down there, she hears something come into there's a little window down in the basement too. There's a little window, half window that, window well type thing. And she senses something come down into the area, and then all of a sudden the tap turns, or it gets busted or whatever, and the liquid's flowing out, but it's not hitting the ground. So there's something invisible in there doing this or whatever. And I can't remember if she called out to me because I decided to stay up on guard duty. And she called to me and I went down there, and this thing, of course, is invisible, and out it goes back through the window, right? And now the beer's falling onto the ground again because whatever it was using to catch it, there it's gone, and it's all gone. And so Petunia goes to the window and she says she sees what looks like a wake left in the snow, kind of like something moving through the snow or whatever. So we the rest of the party or whatever, if I remember correctly, some people try to chase after it, can't catch it or whatever. The innkeeper comes down and says, hey, this shit happened again, and of course there's no evidence of anybody. That thing is already gone, and it's just us with the busted thing, so of course now we look guilty again. And we're trying to explain to him, no, this is what and the cat is in her cat form. She can't speak until she transforms back to her humanoid form, or her feline humanoid form, or whatever. So we convince him that, we'll wait till tomorrow morning, and then she can transform, so forth. And then that happens the next morning. So he's kind of buying in that some type of ghost or something is coming in there and doing this. So Petunia and I, because we've been up all night, our characters go to bed. The rest of the party goes out and does some more investigating, some more harvesting, and so forth. And at some point, somebody, I think it was the magic user, comes up with the idea that there's tree sap in some of the trees that's known to incapacitate people. And he's thinking, well, maybe we could taint some of the beer, one of the kegs, with this stuff, and whatever it is that's stealing it, if it's drinking it as it's stealing it, if it's sampling it, it will knock it out, and we can capture it. So that's what happens. They go to, we're sleeping, I think, and they go to get some of the sap, and there's some local, fairies or whatever that protect the woods, and they get attacked by these fairies. Or elven, not elves, but like dryads or nymphs or, whatever, some type of woodland creature that attacks them. And they basically, at some point, and I can't remember, I think my character might even be one that I might have been there too at this point, says, somebody says, hey, stop, we don't need to fight or whatever. And there's negotiation that goes on, and they basically say, we want you out of here or whatever. And the magic user, I think, says, well, we just need some of this because we have a really urgent need for it or whatever. And they agree to allow us to take some of it, but we got to leave immediately. So we do. Off we go. We end up doing exactly what the magic user suggested. We put this stuff on the keg or whatever, and then the creature comes in, sure enough, just like clockwork, and is drinking some of this stuff while he's stealing it or whatever, and plop, he goes down. And we're able to capture this thing. And somebody, I can't remember who this was, suggested that if he's like a fairy, leprechaun, whatever, that iron supposedly is painful to them, like if they touch iron. So I run off to the blacksmith, who happens to owe me a favor, and I say, hey, I wake him up in the middle of the night, and I'm like, hey, I need some kind of bindings for, a creature and some iron, and he gives me some iron chains and stuff like that. We go back, we wrap this thing up, and of course, it's screaming in pain now, and everybody's basically saying, look, you've been stealing all this stuff. And at one point, I got a retcon here for a second. There was another night involved where I decided to stand outside that window, and I built a fire and everything, and I stood out there all night, and I hear this voice talking to me saying, hey, you think that's going to stop me, blah, 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 and I'm trying to keep it occupied and everything, calling out for help and all that, and in the time it took for everybody to come down, this little bastard had gone into the bar and actually stole the booze in the bar. He had snuck in there while keeping me occupied talking to me. He was throwing his voice. He had some kind of magical means of throwing his voice. So that had happened as well. That was another night that had happened. But we finally catch this thing. We're interrogating him, and everybody's like, "Hey, we want to get the stuff back you stole, whatever's left." And then he agrees. He says, "I have a pot of gold." Now this thing's called a claricon, not a leprechaun, but a claricon. And it's a creature that it lives to drink alcohol, beer, ale, wine, spirits, whatever. And true to its name, that's what it's been doing. And it agrees to give us its pot of gold and return all the stuff if we let it go or whatever. And we're debating on whether or not we can trust it and so forth. So the vote comes down that we're gonna follow this thing. He takes us back. We're able to recover a lot of the tavern owner's booze that he had stolen from behind the bar and all that. And then he says, by the way, my pot of gold is up north at a cabin thing or whatever, which he describes to us is the goblin, where the goblin king, Hogboon, and his cronies are. That's where the pot of gold is. So now we're going to have to deal with that at some point of trying to get the pot of gold away from the goblins or whatever. So bottom line is we solved two mysteries. We solved what was haunting the blacksmith, which turned out it was just a mild case of stalking. And then the thief of the ale cleared our name to show it wasn't us. And now we know about this pot of gold, whatever that's going to entail. But we're going to have to deal with the goblins on that, who we're already in league with about the dragon thing. So that is a quick synopsis of what occurred in this last episode. So almost no combat. It was almost all town stuff, but it was a lot of fun. We basically were investigating two different things, And now collectively, we have helped Hunter Bob, I think his name is, or Hunter, whatever his name is. I got to remember that guy's name. Let's see here. Hunter George. So George, we've helped George. Warwick is the blacksmith, helped him. Helped Ingrid, who is the alchemist, because we got them two together, and helped the innkeeper, and I don't think I wrote his name down, but we helped the innkeeper of the one inn, so our reputation within the town should be pretty high at this point, which is good. But anyway, that is the update for the Dolmenwood campaign that is happening right now. We are playing again this Friday, and we will update you going forward there. Let's see. I think that's it. So until next time, guys, we will catch you on the flip side.